Welcome to our demo on Wave invoicing. As you've learned in the seminar series, Wave is an application that has been customized for small business owners and entrepreneurs. A lot of the basic features, such as bookkeeping and invoicing, are free. So if you're looking to expand your skill set, you can do that with only the cost of your time. For the purposes of this demo, I have created a fictional company, and I'm going to sign in to the application now with all of that information pre-populated. You can see that the company name is called Coffee TikTok, and the fictional nature of this company is a coffee and tea wholesaler that sells coffee beans and loose leaf tea to other coffee shops in the market. Before we get too far into the invoicing itself, I wanted to show you some of the key settings that you'll want to take into consideration for invoicing. First is under customization. To give your invoice a branded look and feel, you have the option of adding your company logo. You can change the accent color, and in this case, I've chosen accent color that matches the logo itself. And you can choose between 3 different templates. The first is fairly basic, the second is more modern, and the third is a little bit more traditional. Let's stick with the more modern version. You also have the option to change some of the fields on your invoice. The payment terms, you can choose them. You can change the title from invoice to something such as bill or receipt. You can put a subheading, a footer, possibly if your company has a slogan and you wanted to add a little bit of extra branding. And if there was something unique that you wanted to include on every invoice, you can add that as a default note that's included. I recommend that if you accept payments via Interac e-Transfer, that you put the address by which your client can send you payment as one of the default notes. You also have the option of defining reminder settings for invoices. And if you don't deal with items or merchandise, you can actually switch the columns in your invoice to reflect services if you're a service provider, or hours if you actually sell your time. I'm going to accept all of these default settings. And the second piece I wanted to introduce you to was the taxes setting. Now, because we live in Canada, at the very least, you have to deal with goods and services. If you have sales that occur in a different province and you have to define PST, you can do that here. And if you have sales that go to provinces where they have harmonized sales tax, you can also define those parameters here. I've got GST, so we can stick with that. Having this programmed up at 5% will ensure that 5% is added by default to all of the goods that I sell. I'd also like to show you where you can create the products and services that you would sell on an invoice. It's under Sales and Payments, Products and Services, and if you have a new product or service, you can simply add it by clicking the button in the top right-hand corner for Add a Product or Service. I have predefined 2 products. The first is 5 kilograms of what I'm calling Northern Kindness loose leaf tea in bulk. That's 3,500 plus GST. And coffee beans, 50 kilograms of Northern Tundra coffee in bulk for 2,000 plus GST. Now that we have all of this predefined, we're ready to invoice. Under Sales and Payments, if you click on Invoices, it will bring you to the invoice preparation screen. I'm going to click on Create an Invoice. It will allow you to add a customer. In this case, I have a customer predefined as Tom's Coffee and Tea, but if this is the first time that you're sending an invoice to a new customer, you can simply click on Create a New Customer and add their details, contact, billing address, shipping details, and more. But I'm going to stick with Tom. Wave keeps track of your invoices for you, so this knows that I am at invoice number 4. I'm going to mark the date that it's sent for March 25th, with the payment due date 30 days out at April 24th. And I'm now going to add the articles that I'm going to sell to Tom's Coffee and Tea. So I'm going to sell 1 unit of the Northern Kindness loose leaf tea and 1 unit of the Northern Tundra coffee. You'll see here that the GST is already added and pre-calculated. And the total balance of the invoice is $5,775. It'll even give you the option to do a preview of the invoice so you can see what the customer will see as well. With the preview, you can see the customized payment terms that I have defined, the footer, which in this case is the company slogan, "Let's talk coffee and spill the tea." I've got my invoice subheader, and I've predefined the address information for this fictional company in the system, so you can see that I've got all of this here as well as some contact information. So the invoice looks good. I'm going to click on Save and Continue. And I'm now going to approve the draft. Now, once your draft is approved, you have a few options. Under More Actions, if you wanted to print the invoice and send it via traditional mail, you can do that here. If you wanted to export it as a PDF, you can do that and then manually attach it to email. Or if you've integrated Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo Mail, you can send it directly from here as well. I'm going to leave the default. You can also get a shareable link, which allows you to just simply embed the link into an email message. This is particularly handy for customers that you know exist on mobile devices because this is also mobile optimized, and then they can actually see what it would look like in a mobile window. So if I go back to my invoice, I'm going to mark it as sent. And I'm also going to pretend that we have received payment on this particular invoice as well. So I'm going to record a payment 1 week out from today on April 1st in the amount of $5,775. I'm going to mark the payment method as a bank payment, assuming this was Interac e-transfer, but if I've set up the options to do credit card payments, I can do that as well. And I'm going to default it to cash on hand because I haven't created a separate account for the purposes of this demo, and click on Submit. And that's that. The benefit of creating your invoices in Wave, if you actually have your banking integrated into it, is you actually have both the invoice itself as well as the recorded payment automatically registered in your transactions. So when you've created the invoice and recorded the payment, you don't have to create separate entries for what you've actually just done. You also have the option to send a receipt acknowledging payment with your client, but I'm going to skip over that and simply close it. And that's that. A couple of other quick notes. If you are a service-based business, you may want to explore looking at the different payment options that are available to be integrated with your Wave invoice. So under Sales and Payments, I'm going to click on Payment Setup. This allows you to accept different methods of payment, such as with credit cards or the American Express network. Bear in mind that because Wave is cross-border and works in both Canada and the US, bank payment / ACH, that's not something that we typically deal with in Canada, so you can ignore that. And Discover is a payment option that can be accepted, even though very few Canadians have Discover accounts. If you find that you want to integrate payments directly in Wave rather than have an online e-store or storefront or a service provider like Etsy that does the payment processing for you, Wave is definitely a good option to integrate those payment services. And if you wanted to see what the transaction activity looks like, you can click on the accounting menu and then go to transactions. And you can see here that I've actually got the payment of April the 1st for Tom's Coffee and Tea for an invoice of $5,775. You can ignore this other one. This is from a previous demo that I had done. And that is our demo on Wave invoicing. I hope you've enjoyed it.